What is up, guys? My name is BobaTalks and welcome to my Westworld episode 6 review and breakdown. Now, this episode is called Phase Space, and not a massive amount of storylines going on in this episode, and to be honest, it's not actually been too much Dolores or anything like that, even though there was a little bit. The main stuff I really found interesting in this episode was the kind of expansion with William, or should I say the Man in Black, William, with his daughter. And also the Bernard and Elsie storyline with that huge reveal at the end, or at least what I'm thinking is a huge reveal, because it kind of makes sense with a lot of stuff that's been happening in the park. Could very well be up to you-know-who in the bar in that really kind of spoony sequence, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But anyway, guys, before I go on with this video, I'd really appreciate it if you do go on to enjoy it. Maybe hit that like button, and if you do want to see more Westworld videos from me, why not subscribe to never miss out on one. So, straight from the top, guys, Arnold at the beginning. You frightened me, Dolores, again. Now, this was an expansion on the whole what you might become, what path you might take, but then this time he was just like, I think I have a choice to make, something I've been wrestling with. From who we kind of assume at this point is Arnold, you know, talks about outgrowing this place, outgrowing us. It then goes to the scene of Dolores freezing all motor functions. Now, is this all motor functions of actually Bernard? Now, that is what I found very interesting, because we also got that line which matches what the young William says when he was speaking to Logan's father, James Delos, when obviously that whole stuff was going on, recreating him, and the same word popped up. Fidelity, just like what William said. Now, as of recording this review, I haven't looked too into this. I haven't looked at what anyone has had to speculate in the fan base. This is just honestly off the top of my head from just literally seeing the episode. I'm wondering if this is when Bernard was getting made, because obviously we know Arnold died. This was a whole big thing in season 1. So it was after James Delos and everything like that happened. You know, obviously Bernard has been this kind of functional host this whole time. That is until the cortical fluid is actually at the minute coming out of his ears. So he is going a bit, you know, haywire at the minute. But either way, he has been functional for quite a long while, to the point where even his own human techs like Elsie and everyone else like that in season 1 didn't even know he was a host. So was this at the beginning of the episode, Ford's, you know, construction and beginning of his once great partner Arnold, but now Bernard, into Westworld? I would find it interesting if they opened the episode with like the beginning structure of kind of Bernard from Ford, and then it ends with what we knew as Bernard then creating Ford, or at least entering him into this kind of cradle, as they call it. But I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Was this Ford polishing up the Bernard that we knew in season 1 and so far in season 2? So in this episode, of course, we got some Dolores and what I like to call a rebooted Teddy. I found it interesting how this kind of rebooted version of Teddy says, you know, some lines like built weak and born to fail, you fixed him, you know, talking about himself. And to be honest, when Teddy just shot that tech, or, you know, that human who probably worked for the park, Dolores's face, she was just in complete awe, but she almost seemed scared to a degree. And this was very interesting. I know we've got both sides of Dolores here in terms of the sweet, sensitive side, but a whole lot of this season has been seeing the gruesome, fierce, ruthless, Wyatt side. And so when Teddy did that, you know, just bluntly, I was very kind of happy how they included that face of hers, because it just kind of made Dolores seem a little bit less fierce than this really, well, how do I put it, fierce side of her we've seen this season. And I wonder what this means. I know we see Teddy washed up later on, so could this really turn into something like a power struggle? Because I feel like Teddy is pretty goddamn ruthless at the minute, ever since what Dolores created in him. So has she created the downfall of her, or at least maybe he might go on his own path now, and that's how he ends up in the sea? And Bernard blames himself. Who knows? This could all tie in together there. But I love that. Really loved that. But other than that, in this episode with Dolores and Teddy, the only other side we got was towards the end of the episode, which is when they were delivering this train into, I believe that cliff is kind of the HQ of the Westworld, or, you know, where they kind of run the park from. So it was really cool when they got the train to rig and explode in there. I don't think it did any massive damage to where we saw what, you know, from the inside of the control rooms. But either way, I think that sends a pretty good goddamn message. It also messes the rail line up, so that train obviously isn't going to be running anytime soon. I also have to mention, I did like how Teddy gave the bullet to the guy. It does kind of show how he is very cold, but he does have a little bit of mercy now. Whereas the Teddy we knew before was very puppy-eyed, like, oh, we really shouldn't be doing this. I am only staying with Dolores right now out of loyalty and love. But apart from that, he was letting people go. But now he's just like, right, you're going to die either way, but I'm going to give you this bullet to kind of end it quickly if you want. So, interesting takes there. Now, from what we saw of Charlotte in this episode as well, was fairly interesting. Obviously, we can't forget how Peter Abernathy was secured. That's that scene where we saw Dolores walk out like a badass, take a couple of bullets, trying to get her father back. And that is when we also learned behind the scenes that Bernard had actually plugged into him. Learned that there was this kind of code that was being kept really behind the wall of his, how would I put it, program makeup. So there's something really deep inside Peter Abernathy that Delos really want. But it's interesting because Bernard had access to it. So I'm wondering if this code is still in Peter Abernathy. But the stuff that surrounded that poor bloke this episode was really brutal because he got nailed into that chair. He wasn't going anywhere. We know he's kind of glitching out. We know, obviously, he doesn't want to be taken away. But I love that line that Ashley said in the episode where he said something like, you know, Delos, you know, wouldn't have hundreds of guests in danger just over one control unit. And it's just like, well, yes, they would. They wouldn't fly in and rescue anyone from this, how do I put it, robot rebellion unless they got what they wanted. That's all they care about. They actually don't care about people dying. And that just shows you how cold of a company Delos is. They will do absolutely anything to get what data is in Peter Abernathy. But, you know, at least we know that Bernard has been connected to it too, so we got to find out exactly what that is very soon, I'm sure. But alongside this as well, we had those Delos kind of troopers, or I'm guessing some kind of privately contracted military kind of, I don't know, guards kind of thing where you can hire them out. I'm sure Delos have unlimited resources, so these are the guys who have come in to make sure they get Peter Abernathy out. But as we know, Dolores is coming for him, so yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see about this massive outblast that is going to happen very soon. Now, as for the Maeve stuff in this episode, a lot of things happened, but I don't really have too much to say. I have to say a lot of it was beautiful. A lot of it was awesome. It was really cool seeing her walk out like a goddess, making the guards kill themselves. You know, she's got this extremely cool force-like power, you know, that she's somehow managed to manipulate the code of other hosts. I thought that duel was absolutely remarkable, the choreography that was going on. I really like how Maeve was refusing to interrupt because, you know, in a more human way than ever, you know, hosts also deserve to choose their fate, even if that means death. So yeah, really cool fight, really awesome scenes there. Love this stuff, and love how we've incorporated different worlds now into Westworld, really, you know, with the whole Shogun world, and then we have the Raj place and stuff like that. So absolutely incredible. We had some more sentimental moments that Maeve related to, which I thought were wonderful as well. You know, it was kind of gruesome at the same time, but obviously we had the burning of Sakura's heart, and that is when Maeve and everybody left. But I do believe at least one went along with them. I believe it was the alternate version of the lady who had the tattoo on her face. I cannot remember the name of her right now, but not everybody was left behind to the dealings of everything that was going along in that land. Now, I found it quite touching when Maeve finally reached the land of where, you know, she used to live with her daughter. She even had this kind of conversation with Lee Sizemore, the guy who has kind of got her this place, and has kind of really proved how you can be redeemed in a little bit of the way with this arc he's been on, because we have to admit he was like the most unsympathetic dick of a person to the host, but now through tagging along, he's kind of understood that the creations that he has designed narratives for are just more than the stories and robots that he thought they once were. However, when she was saying thank you to him, I was like, but he's got that device, remember? Is he going to stab him in the back just as he's got her this far? And that only did turn out to be calling for backup. Now, I was paying attention to his face there, and he looked kind of like he was being comprehensive, and he felt sad at the same time. So I'm wondering if he knows that the backup that will be coming will obviously try and fight Maeve, and I think he kind of knows that. I think he likes Maeve and everything, but I think, as I just said, when that backup comes, it's not like they're going to be friendly to Maeve just as he's kind of been. I think he knows that through getting help and backup, he's also going to be indirectly responsible for screwing Maeve over at the same time for when they point the guns in her face. Now, I was very surprised at this moment. I did not expect her daughter to actually be there. At the same time, I thought it was possible because, you know, these hosts do just sometimes relentlessly play out a narrative over and over again every single day kind of thing. But yeah, she was there playing with her dolls, and then all of a sudden, the surprising element to me was that there was a different mother there. Now, this completely makes sense. As we both know, Maeve's narrative was rewritten for her to lead the whorehouse, I believe, or the brothel. And so she wasn't the mother anymore. But regardless, this is still the daughter to her. But it did kind of make me laugh when she just ran away with her daughter, and she just left the other mother there, just like, screw it, we're going, like, let's just go. Even though technically that lady, that host who is now looking after Maeve's once daughter, you know, is just as connected to that girl as Maeve ever was, or this other Shogun version Maeve was connected to as well. So I thought that was kind of a dick move, but at the same time, Indians were coming. So yeah, but at the same time, it is one way of getting rid of the mother, I guess, if those Indians do F her over as well. I found it very interesting though how those Indians were just like something like, come with us, our paths lead to the same place, and that's when Sizemore did call for help. Is that just the Indian pointing out that they need to fulfill this narrative as that is what they do every time? Or is there more to this story? I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Honestly, I'm actually surprised. I'm quite happy as well that Maeve has got a daughter back, but it's going to be a whole load of complicated mess now with the fact that this host has obviously been programmed to think that that other lady is her mother now. But with Maeve's amazing superior force powers in kind of manipulating this code in the hosts, I'm sure she can trigger some of the code that will make her remember Maeve as her narrative mother. Now, as for the man in black in this episode and his daughter, I loved it. It was true kind of just revealing and character development as to what their relationship has been like. It was kind of not surprising at the same time how William wasn't the best father growing up. We got a few hints of that. But as for his daughter, she is a badass. She actually saved them from that ambush because I believe these guys were actually using fake arrows to think that they were Indians. But yeah, she was a badass, just completely saved them from a whole load of trouble there. I just really like how we get to know a little bit more about William, or should I say the man in black, from somebody else's perspective, you know, his daughter's perspective, and how he put on this image out in the real world in terms of how he didn't drink out there, but really she didn't buy the good guy act this whole time at all. And she kind of emphasized on this, and I found this perfect with her saying, I never got mum's reactions to you because I spent so many years buying your good guy act. So William really hid his true nature. And in Westworld Season 1, we know that he found his true self through Dolores, and I mean, he was this kind of normal guy before that. So he kind of played that role in the outside world, but yeah, apart from that, he was turned ugly through that Season 1 of Westworld, and he was really that guy. But she does actually regret saying that she put her mother's death on William because that wasn't his fault, really, at the end of the day. And she regrets saying that. So their relationship, from what we can tell in this episode, hasn't been the best. And she's actually there to get her father out of the park. And I found that really touching. She literally went in there to get William out, saying things like, you know, you do not get to do that to me, suicide by robot, or whatever the F that is. She kind of knows there's something going on with him. She may just seem like it's some kind of weird, stupid quest, but as we know, to William, there is this kind of game. And I think she gets that to a degree, but she doesn't think that you should be this obsessed with it. She doesn't think that you need this to be fulfilled. But I also have to admit, I got really kind of emotional when William's eyes were kind of tearing up. They were really glassy, because when she was saying all of this stuff to him in terms of how they can go out there and, you know, get him out the park, he lied to her and said, then I guess we'll get walking at sunup. And the thing is, from what I read in this moment, I love how there can be so much said with no lines at all. I think he really liked the idea of kind of getting out of here, and maybe this could mean somewhat of a new beginning, as they kind of teased in that conversation between each other if they kind of leave Westworld. And he likes the idea of that, and it is beautiful in the way to him, but he's almost gone too far, and it's not realistic for him, and he's got this game with 4 to finish, to the point where, you know, he left her at sunup. He was already, you know, miles away probably by that point, and she was really upset about that, obviously. But yeah, I'm more on about the bit as when he was actually lying to her, saying that they would leave the park. I just thought that was really nice, because I thought we saw a little bit of the old William there, and kind of thinking from his side, oh, maybe this would be nice. Oh, what could have been? But no, I've gone too far. we need to press on. So he lies to her daughter and F's her over. And I thought this was all a great story in this episode. And kind of going back 2 seconds, I thought it was pretty hilarious when William thought it was actually Ford who actually designed a host to be looking and acting exactly like his daughter. That's how far William thought Ford was planning to go in this game. Now guys, to end it on the whole Bernard and Elsie stuff, they actually head back to the Westworld HQ. They detail how QA has actually been trying to regain control from whatever Ford actually did to the system, but they've been constantly actively getting blocked every single time by the cradle. Now this cradle is, from what we see, is this kind of server looking room that we saw in the trailer, and we speculated is this kind of data center, but it turns out this is where all the host backups are. They can simulate narratives, but they shouldn't be able to influence other systems. But it's like there is something in there that is improvising, and ultimately the cradle is fighting back. Now this is where stuff started to get very, very exciting, because we actually had Bernard remembering doing something or coming here before, and this is where another time slippage, temporary time slippage happened. It's more of a memory, because Bernard had to bring the ball, or someone, this brain ball that is in hosts, to here. And this is very interesting, because it's like, who could this be? And why was this created? What was Bernard ordered to do? And guys, as you know, we actually get that answer, but not before Bernard entered the cradle himself. Now, with his kind of, most modern type of host interface, it is not a nice process to go through for them to extract little balls that are in the host's brain. So that is technically their brain that gets lifted out. So he felt pain and everything. So props to him. He literally got his head like kind of sliced open and extracted, his ball brain. And then he got put into the cradle, and this is where he kind of entered this kind of I guess it's this like kind of purgatory kind of space in the cradle, or this kind of plane where everything is running, but within this kind of, I don't know, brain that is the cradle. At first I thought this was kind of a flashback or to Arnold or some other kind of memory, but because of the end reveal in terms of when Bernard actually entered the bar and then he saw somebody playing on the piano, and that was Ford saying, "Hello, old friend," or something like that. That is what made me think that it is just him, his brain, since, got selected out of Bernard's body and entered into the cradle, is just him navigating around that massive, matrix of a server. And this, from where I'm standing, makes complete sense with what Bernard was ordered to do before, because he had to bring another brain, another host brain, here before, and it was actually, I'm theorizing, and I'm fairly thinking this is self-explanatory to most of the audience, that the person he got ordered to bring to the cradle before was actually Ford. And this is Ford who is doing all of this stuff in Westworld right now, because he is, essentially what Elsie was saying, influencing other systems which shouldn't be happening, simulating narratives, doing all kinds of things. This is how Ford is also communicating with William through different hosts, as if he's still there. And that's because he is within the system. And that is absolutely incredible. And for once now, Bernard and Ford, for the first time in quite a while now, are going to have this kind of current conversation. And I can't wait for that. It's amazing how Ford is living on through the cradle, where all the host backups are. He is essentially controlling Westworld. He is the puppeteer master. He is pulling the strings. So I thought that was an amazing reveal. At the moment, as it stands, technically Ford hasn't been giving a host body of himself. He's just kind of living throughout the system, whereas Bernard, as we know, has been given this host body of Arnold. Must have taken quite a few attempts, as we saw at the beginning of the episode, and this is how the beginning and the end of the episode kind of link together, and I find that very, very fascinating. Maybe, I wouldn't see the point of it, and I don't think they are going to do it. I don't think they're going to create a host body for Ford, just because for this story he's going to be more powerful just going throughout the system. But I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Let me know everything you thought about what I discussed in this episode specifically, and what questions I raised. I just thought it was a great episode, and it's teased so much more. Every episode at the minute is just leaving me more and more and more to want from the show itself, so I can't wait for next week's episode. Leave a like if you got this far on the video, guys, as it really, really does help this video get noticed a little bit more. Share it with your Westworld buddies if you have any, and other than that, subscribe if you're brand new to this channel, as I will be covering more Westworld. Other links in my description include my Discord server, so be sure to click on that link to be invited to the server, to talk with the Boba community about absolutely everything. Other than that, I have links to my social media. I recommend following me on Twitter. But that is it, guys, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.